Today our demo and devo comes from James 3, 1 through 6. And I'm going to be demonstrating the second purpose of subpoint summaries, which is to use them to build your bracket, similar to the way we would use a paraphrase to build a bracket. Sometimes summaries, because of their nature being shorter, they serve us well as a way of testing conjunctions. So what are pulled up here are all of the subpoint summaries from James chapter 3. We're going to practice some sentence combining in order to build the bracket toward the main point. All right, let's go ahead and read the first three propositions. Do not become teachers in large numbers, my brothers, since you know that we who are teachers will incur a stricter judgment, for we all stumble in many ways. These ground connections could very well be connected to 1a, but I have a feeling that they are broader in scope than just 1b and 2a. So I'm going to leave these unlabeled for now, knowing that I'll go back and label these as grounds once I figure out what's going on down below. So let's figure out 2b through d. If anyone does not stumble in what he says, he is a perfect man, able to rein in the whole body as well. The repetition of the word stumble here suggests that 2a and 2b through d are tightly connected. So I'm going to use my summary of 2b through d to figure out how it relates to 2a. Now you'll notice the longest line of this piece is 2c, goes right to here with the star, and it says he is a perfect man. But I don't think James is presenting for us a way to become a perfect man. If you fulfill this condition, hey, you're going to be perfect. You're going to be in control of everything. What he's saying here is tongue-in-cheek. He's saying that words are the litmus test for how much control somebody has of their sinful tendencies. If you can control words, you can control everything. But nobody does. There's only one perfect man, and James knows that. It's Jesus. And so my summary, to not fail in word means you have perfect control, which we know is only true of Jesus. So why would he say next to that, for we all stumble in many ways? Well, I think here what he's doing is introducing a concessive statement. There's the many and the one way in what we say. So even though we stumble in a lot of ways, stumbling in word is the easiest and most common. So I think this is a concessive. I'm going to mark it as such. And I'm going to write a subpoint summary using 2a and the summary that I already have. Notice I'm leaving on the because here it says for, and I want to keep that there so I can remember later that I need to relate this whole piece potentially as a ground. I'm going to think about it a little bit, but it could be that this is leading in the entire piece. One of the things we get to do when we combine broader pieces is diminish our lower level summaries to make things simpler. All right, let's go ahead and read the next piece. Now, if we put the bits into the horses' mouths so that they will obey us, we direct their whole body as well. Now, even though there's a repetition of the phrase, the whole body here, this idea is talking about stumbling or failing. It's moral. This idea seems to be changing a little bit. The theme here is the small thing that can control the big thing. And there are two illustrations of this actually, because I think down here in verse 4, the illustration of the ships is doing the same thing. So I tried to whittle this down. He's speaking a little bit poetically or artistically about this, but I think the core of what he's saying is the whole body of a horse can be controlled. And so my summary, now we guide giant horses by the tiny mouth bit. Now notice I put in the word by. There's no manner or means here, but I think he's making that point with the if then. So I'm trying to summarize it as succinctly as possible. And I see a parallel idea, or at least similar, it's different in structure, but similar in idea in verse 4. Look at the ships too, though they are so large and are driven by strong winds, they are nevertheless directed by a very small rudder wherever the inclination of the pilot determines. Also, see how big the ships are that are controlled by a tiny rudder. So the bit and the size of the horse, the rudder and the size of the ship and the force of the wind. So they're making the same point, but they're each individually offering their own independent support. So I'm going to make this a series. And I'm going to put in a summary combining these two ideas. And now we get to simplify. Now coming into verse 5, the way I've used the language of tiny, tiny, and tiny down here, summarizing this, verse 5, it really helps us make the connection between 3 through 5. We're making this really broad connection. So also, the tongue is a small part of the body, and yet it boasts of great things. The so also language strongly suggests a comparison relationship. So I'm going to make that connection. All right, let's simplify this. And now we are on our way. We have some broad pieces that we get to work with for making these connections. Let's go ahead and do the very bottom of the passage. See how great a forest is set aflame by such a small fire, and the tongue is a fire, the very world of unrighteousness. The tongue is set among our body's parts as that which defiles the whole body and sets on fire the course of life, and is set on fire by hell. So these two pieces, the tiny tongue, like a fire, is full of out-of-control evil, bringing in some of that explanation. The world of unrighteousness, like a fire, is out of control. And the tongue is placed in just such a way that it burns your life with the flames of hell. And there's that manner language, just such a way. It's just so placed that everything is affected by the hellfires that feed or fuel the tongue. Obviously, the ideas are very similar here. The fire language is repeated. When I try to relate these, it works really well as an explanation. Even as you connect 6a, the main point of this piece, with 6c, the main point of this piece, and the tongue is a fire, it is set in such a way so as to destroy. So I think we're seeing an explanation here. And the tiny tongue is an out-of-control evil, in that it torches one's entire life with unrighteousness. So the in that language offers an explanation of the tiny tongue's out-of-control evil. All right, now I have 3 summaries that are going to be connected together. Let me take a step back and read these through. Because even though we all fail, to not fail in word means you're perfect, which we know is only true of Jesus. Now, like giant horses and big ships are guided by small things, so also the tiny tongue has great power. And the tiny tongue is an out-of-control evil in that it torches one's entire life with unrighteousness. Now, when looking at broader pieces, it is possible that the conjunction that introduces the entire piece is governing that entire piece with its logic. But it's also possible, as in the case down here, this and I don't think is necessarily governing the entire connection of 5c through 6f to the rest of the passage. I think it's just governing 5c and 6a. So we're going to have to figure this out down here. But let's consider the connection between the first 2 pieces first, because I think there's a tighter relationship there. And one of the keys to this passage is to understand that James is introducing a moral idea regarding the tongue, but he's also introducing a practical idea regarding the tongue. The tongue is a great evil, easy to stumble with your tongue, but the tongue also has great effects. It can do a lot, it's powerful, despite being so small. The key to understanding how all 3 of these pieces connect is to see that down below, both of those ideas are present. Small spark, big fire, and the tongue is a fire. And the idea of it being a fire actually combines these 2 points. It's a fire in that it's small and it has a big, widespread, far-reaching effect. And it's also a fire in that it burns things with unrighteousness. I think these are 2 ideas that are both offering independent contribution to what the conclusion is down here. So I'm going to make these a series. I'm going to summarize them together. So I've put my summary together because trying to whittle these ideas down, all fail with their tongues. I think ultimately that's what this is saying. And the tongue has great power. I think that's ultimately what this is saying. So let's go ahead and lower our lower level subpoints. Now, what is this connection? When I read them together as an inference, things do seem to make sense. These two truths become a reason for this effect of the tongue. It's like a fire because it's both moral in nature. We all stumble that way. We commit unrighteousness. And because of its great power. Both of these elements are necessary for it to be like a fire torching one's entire life. So taking basically the word for word summary up here, it's hard to whittle this down anymore because all fail with their tongues, and two, the tongue has great power. And remember, this because isn't leading into this therefore yet. It's coming from still this for, which is going to connect it to what comes before. And therefore, and I think these are two reasons that this therefore should work. Tongues light giant hellfires in people's lives. A giant hellfire in my life would be what this is describing. So now we have a clear summary that we're going to be able to use to connect this to 1b and 1a. But know this is not the final word concerning the tongue. At the end of James chapter 3, this chapter, it tells us that the wisdom from above is pure and peaceable and gentle and willing to yield, and it is possible to give out that kind of wisdom with your tongue and bear a harvest of peace. So we do need to be careful, but the Lord can even sanctify our out-of-control tongues.
The Paraphrase course was designed not only to teach you how to display your interpretation of an arc or bracket, but also how to test it through a paraphrase. You'll learn techniques that help you communicate your understanding, strengthen your interpretive stance, and make the broadest and most difficult connections in a passage, all by approaching the text with the skill of a trained detective. If that sounds helpful, you can find the course at Biblearc.com.